The Knights of Columbus are known for their annual Christmas exhibits at their world headquarters in New Haven. Steve Kiltonick takes us there now for the Knights' newest Christmas exhibit focusing on the African continent.
Just in time for the Christmas season is a new exhibit at the Blessed Michael McGivney Pilgrimage Center. It features creches and various works of art that celebrates Christmas throughout the vast continent of Africa. The exhibit, which opened November 11th, includes over 50 objects from 23 African countries that reflect the diverse culture of each nation. Christianity spread into Africa in the 1st century, mainly in North Africa, until the 7th century, when the new Islamic faith started to grow. In the 15th century, Portuguese missionaries brought their own plaster creches with them, then recruited local artisans to create works of art that reflected their own culture. Today, that tradition continues. According to a 2018 Pew study, Christianity around the world is growing the fastest in Africa, with the majority of Christians today living in the sub-Saharan nations. Catholic priests and women religious are also joining the faith in larger numbers here than anywhere else. In recent years, Christians in certain African countries have experienced persecution, resulting in death and displacement. Despite the turmoil, the Catholic faith continues to grow. Bethany Sheffer is the curator at the McGivney Pilgrimage Center.
Despite the fact that there is so much persecution going on, the faith of Catholics and Christians is unwavering in this region.
Because most of Africa is in the southern hemisphere, Christmas falls during the summer.
The only snow is probably on Kilimanjaro, and that's it. And if you see Christmas trees, many of them might not be pine trees. They might be a native tree within the region itself. The commonality of Christmas in all of the countries in Africa is the Nativity itself and the celebration of Christ's birth.
Many of the African creches and artwork in the exhibit showcase local traditions and incorporate native materials found within the region.
There is something for everyone. There is glass, ceramic, wood, straw. There are things that are made of banana leaf. Definitely recycling materials. So you might have board. The animals that are represented in the nativity itself are going to be native animals. So we have one here that has a giraffe, and you have like a water buffalo and a hippopotamus.
This creche from Malawi features a rhino, tiger, and elephant. This Nigerian nativity was carved out of wood from one of the 3 thorn trees grown in the country, each of which produces a different color. A Zimbabwe creche was made of wood from the jacaranda tree. It's great for carving and produces colorful blue and purple flowers in the spring. This colorful nativity was hand-carved in Burkina Faso out of lightwood balsa wood, then hand-painted in bright colors. While this creche from the island nation of Madagascar features a native wood that is rare because of deforestation.
We have another one that we believe is made of ebony. It is a much older nativity, and now ebony is very heavily regulated.
A number of the nativities incorporate colorful clothing in the figures, like this creche from Zambia, which is crafted from recycled scraps of batik fabric.
The scraps that you would throw out when you're making your own clothing is actually set aside to make the clothing for the nativity figures.
A Ghana nativity features kente fabric, a textile that's made of hand-woven strips of silk and cotton. This fabric is worn at special occasions. The felt figures of this Rwanda creche are made of merino wool from locally raised sheep and woven by women working for Handspun Hope, a group that provides employment for at-risk women in Rwanda. The top of the roof from this Lesotho nativity resembles a hat that is part of the national dress of the country. In most nativities, Mary is pictured kneeling, bowed in prayer, but not in this piece.
We also have a nativity from Ghana, which depicts Mary in a actually very traditional pose than what we're used to seeing, but is actually the way nativities often were depicted. And it shows her resting after having her son.
One of the more popular displays is the Zimbabwe Shona sculptures, named after a native tribe of the region. Zimbabwe is rich in stone deposits. Artists use different grades of springstone, a form of serpentine stone, to achieve a variety of effects.
We have one here that actually shows the various levels of the process it is to create these sculptures, from the rough stone to the carving and then to the polishing, which shows the actual color of the stone itself.
The Shona Madonna stands 8 feet tall and weighs 800 pounds, while the stone depicting the various carving step weighs 900 pounds. Another creche visually tells the story of persecution with bullet shell casings taken from the battlefields of Liberian wars.
The artist himself actually collected these bullet casings and then carved etched into the casings themselves figures of the Nativity, and it really shows that you take something that is very dark and awful war and turn it into something beautiful, positive, and full of peace.
This nativity is woven by Zulu women from South Africa who specialize in making beaded dolls. In this Ethiopian creche, the stable resembles a thatched roof hut common in the country. This large South African wood carving is a favorite of Scheffer's.
A Holy Family set, and it is actually depicting members of the Maasai tribe, and they have beautiful, beautiful red clothing and very ornate jewelry.
The majority of artwork in the collection is owned by the Blessed Michael McGivney Pilgrimage Center, which is very selective on what it purchases.
When we collect, we really focus on purchasing directly from artists or from fair trade organizations that are making sure these artists get a living wage. But many of these groups also will give back to the community themselves and will help people in need and teach them trade.
The Christmas in Africa exhibit runs through February 2nd, 2025. For Reel to Reel, I'm Steve Kiltonick.